to the TAC.
Okay, so I'm Dr. Munson. Actually, Dr. Burchett is on the phone call, but he is not feeling terribly well. So he has asked me to go ahead and take the helm today. So I'm glad that he could at least join us. And I hope that you feel better, Dr. Burchett. So looking here to make sure we've got our quorum. Okay. All right. So I think we're good on that. So the first move for us will be for the approval of the minutes from the previous meeting. So I will call for a motion to approve those meeting minutes.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, go ahead. Steve Compton, I'll second.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Upchurch and Dr. Compton for the second. Okay, so item 4 on our agenda today is some old business. So DMS, you get the floor pretty much our whole meeting today on this old business. So I'm just going to go ahead and pose these questions, and then whomever from the department has the best ability to answer them, just go ahead and chime in for us. So does DMS have the no-show report to share with the TAC for the optometrist? I know we've had an email in the past, but I did not see one leading up to this meeting.
Johnson, are you on today? Oh, he's logging in right now. Just 1 second. Justin, have you gotten in yet?
Yes, thank you.
Do you want me to repeat that question then so he can hear it?
Yes, please.
Okay, so we're on number 4 of our agenda under old business. And we're asking, does DMS have the no-show report to share with the TAC for the optometrist? From last meeting, we did have an update before our meeting, and I did not see one come through prior to this meeting.
No, I've got that report pending. It's one that we've asked for. We're just waiting on to get that information back. So I don't have that available today. We'll have that available very soon. And again, just a kind of reminder, we're currently working on and hoping to have available soon. I know it was scheduled for an April release date that got pushed back again. Hopefully it's going to be sometime this month for the no-show portal or the no-show dashboard. That will be a public access website, and it's going to be anybody will be able to access that dashboard to be able to look at each provider type, each county, break it down in several different dimensions to be able to look at the no-show list and what reasons were given for those no-shows. So that's hopefully will be done within the next month or so. I've been kind of expecting it for the last several months, to be honest, and it's been delayed a few times. It's in production with our IT contractors, has been for a little while. The actual report that we asked for, I think they misinterpreted that information of us asking for an update on the actual no-show dashboard. So we have not received that yet. We've corrected that to let them know that we just needed a no-show for optometry to get that information to this TAC. So they should be sending that pretty soon.
And then how will that be distributed? Just via email to us on the TAC?
Right. I will send that to our staff that does the technical advisory committees, and they'll email each TAC member.
Perfect. Okay, great. Thank you. And then next for DMS, has there been any update on the Kentucky Board of Optometric Examiners electronically sending licenses to DMS?
Hello, this is Jennifer Dudinsky with Program Integrity. So as of February the 13th, that was the last contact we had with Carson Kerr. He stated there were still issues with the old system and that it was a holdup on their side. I had staff reach back out last week, and there has been no response from their office at this time. So the update I have on that piece. Any questions, comments on that portion? I have the next portion too on the updated license piece. Okay.
Yeah.
So then the next question, I hope you all can hear me. I'm getting messages that my internet is stable. So we do have 163 optometrists who have not updated their license. So typically we have a notice that's issued 30 days prior to give just a notification to the provider you need to do this. I just found out this morning that for whatever reason that failed and that notification didn't go out. So I requested that they send a notification out today to those optometrists. As of noon, that should have been issued. So, just to give a little extra notification out there for those optometrists to update their license. Any other questions for me?
Not on that. Thank you.
Sure.
So moving along, we're continuing our discussion with the 2023 new Medicaid vision material benefit for adults and children. So first and foremost, is there any update on the CMS approval on these new enhanced benefits?
Hello, this is Lisa Lee. I'm the Commissioner for the Department for Medicaid Services. We are continuing to work with CMS regarding those benefits. They had a few questions. We have responded to those and we are awaiting their approval.
Okay. Have they given you any timeline on that?
They have not given us a timeline right now.
Okay, thank you. And then if we could discuss the answers that we received from the optometric tax recommendation to the MAC. And so I may have Sarah, if you're on here, or Dinah chime in with that. So we can maybe be a little more specific with what we're asking DMS to clarify. That's what happens when you put somebody in charge of a meeting like 2 hours before it starts. I can hear you a little bit.
Dr. Munson, this is Dinah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're good now.
Okay, thanks. Yes, so the Optometric TAC, as you know, as a group, voted to submit some recommendations to the MAC. Those recommendations were received and we received a response from the MAC. I don't know if perhaps this is included on the agenda just to make sure that all of the TAC members know what response was received. And happy to go through that. If there's any additional questions, we don't have any additional questions here at our office. I think this was just included just as a follow-up because last time we met, we had not heard back. We had voted to submit them and we had not heard back from our recommendations, but now we have, and I believe everyone on the TAC has heard that, has gotten that response, but I don't know if any other members wanted to ask questions about that.
So do we have any other of our TAC members, Dr. Compton, Dr. Sawyer, Dr. Upchurch, Dr. Burchett, anybody have any questions on what was submitted back?
Dr. Munson, I was a little confused, especially on the medically necessary contact lenses for children, along with eyewear. Hasn't that been a benefit all along? Haven't we always been able to fit medically necessary contact lenses on children?
I believe that's correct.
But the response was that the department would need what numbers that would affect, but they're already doing it. So I wasn't real clear as to what everybody needs to know about that.
This is Lisa. Hi, Dr. Compton.
Hi,
So
Commissioner.
our children's benefit, you're correct. We could always do contact lenses through the EPSDT. That's the Early Periodic Screening, Diagnostic and Treatment Program, or benefit. Those services could always be performed. So in the event that anything needs to be provided to children over and above that benefit, it just, needs to be through the EPSDT benefit. The language I think may have been just a little bit confusing. We didn't need to know the number for children so much as we would have the adults. So I hope that we clarified that answer. I think that there were a couple of responses to those recommendations, and I hope that's been clarified, but that has always been a benefit for children.
Commissioner, thanks. I think there may be another disconnect that we all need to be on the same page when we talk about medically necessary contact lenses, or I'm using the term luxury contact lenses, those folks that just want contact lenses because they don't want to wear glasses or what have you. There may be some confusion between all the parties involved and all these expanded benefits as to what is what, so to speak. So just to me, it's like, maybe we're not all on the same page, but that could just be me.
And I think maybe that's what the response was trying to state, that the contact lenses should be medically necessary. But I agree that we need to go back and look at the language to make sure that we clear up any confusion related to the coverage of the services that we're providing. I believe the expanded services, everything in Medicaid, of course, has to be medically necessary for us to deliver those services. But I believe that the intent is that we will cover contacts and/or glasses for individuals regarding their vision needs, that we would cover them. And they have to be medically necessary, of course, the contact lenses. So if somebody needs, for example, needs vision correction, we would think that they could get either glasses or contact lenses. But I'll have to defer back to Justin and to see if that was the intent in the regulation, that anyone could get either contact lenses or glasses. Or was there special criteria for contact lenses?
This is Justin Derringer. Thank you, Commissioner. No, you're absolutely correct. The intent has always been, and currently is, even in the new reiteration, that contact lenses are for medical necessity only. And we spoke with multiple providers when we initially created the administrative regulations that talked about instances where contact lenses were the preferred choice for certain instances and certain indications. And that's what we were trying to do, was to give the provider the choice of exactly what type of corrective prescription that individual needed, based on that provider's assessment and that individual's needs. And so that's why it says they can have one or the other. And it is, basically left to the discretion of the clinician that's prescribing those lenses. If there's, any thought that clinicians in the state of Kentucky wouldn't be capable of making some of those choices or things like that, we could talk about that maybe with the board. That might be a better discussion for them. But for us, on our fee schedule, we only open that up to allow for prescribers, clinicians, prescribers to prescribe exactly what they felt necessary for their individual patients based on their analysis and their expertise. And we show that on the fee schedule as well as the administrative regulation.
And for example, we would not cover contact lenses if someone did not need vision correction and they just, for example, wanted to change the color of their eyes. Those contacts would definitely not be covered. That's an example of contact lenses that would not be medically necessary for individuals.
So let me just make sure this is Dr. Munson, that when you talk about the medical necessity, it is actually defined by either their clinical diagnosis or their prescription. So for someone who is, just you're wearing reading glasses. So let's say they just want to have contacts so they can see to read. Then that is not what it falls into medically necessary. Now, if they're very, very nearsighted, I believe the statute is -8 and above, then someone that falls into that would be considered medically necessary. So it is the same. Okay. So I want to make sure that it's this isn't any different than what we've already been following for children.
That is correct.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
That clears up
And then
the confusion.
absolutely. And then is already now reflected on the new vision fee schedule, that it is medically necessary only for the reimbursement for the contact lenses?
Yes, I believe that is,
Okay.
it's definitely spelled out in the regulation.
Okay. And then is that going to be included on the fee schedule as well, annotated on that, or just in the regulation?
We can go back and look at the fee schedule and see if it's annotated on that. If not, we could add that if the TAC thinks that's something that would be useful for the rest of the population.
Mm-hmm. I think that would make it easier to keep that kind of clean that way. Perfect. Thank you. And then go ahead.
I'm sorry, one quick thing. So what we have heard from a number of providers is that the patient population believes that they have a choice between glasses or contact lenses. And then when you pull the vision fee schedule, that's the language that is utilized. It's a choice between contact lenses or glasses. The medically necessary language to include on that vision fee schedule and any communication out to patients would be very helpful to help clarify that, because our providers are on the front lines having to explain that not everyone gets contact lenses just because they prefer to have that as their method of vision correction.
Okay, so would it be helpful then if the department drafted a letter, maybe or some sort of a communication, and let the TAC review it to see if we could clear up some of this confusion? And are you saying that you think it would be better for the members and the providers, or both?
Absolutely, for both as well.
Yeah, this is March Vision. This is Tanya from March Vision. I also, we are using the language elective contact lenses. And just recently, we have been guided to tell our providers that it's 8 units covered and it's glasses or contacts. And that is what's specific on the benefits. So we do need some clarity. Members need clarity. Providers need clarity. This is just causing a bunch of chaos for us on the MCO side. And we're in May. Let's just say we're halfway through the year with these new benefits.
This is John Davis from iQuest. I want to reiterate that statement that it's still confusing. Maybe I can ask just one, maybe simple case in point. Maybe Dr. Munson, let's assume the patient comes into your office and they are whatever, -125 sphere, right? They're 12 years old, they're 125 spheres, or even maybe they have a little sill, whatever, doesn't matter, right? So they see with glasses, 2015 correctable. They say, no, I don't want glasses this time. I'd rather have contact lenses. Is our understanding that that patient now is allowed to have contact lenses instead of glasses at that visit? Let's assume you don't have a contraindication to it. You just say, fine, that's what they want. Would that be part of the criteria for when we would cover contact lenses for the kids, do you think, based on your understanding?
All right. So if you're asking me based on my understanding in the clinical setting, no, because the regulations are written that for them to be medically necessary contacts, that child needs to be a -8 or higher. So yes, clinically they could get them, but would the coverage come from them personally? Yes. Would it come from DMS? No. And I'll ask Commissioner Lee if I'm interpreting that correctly, but I believe that is.
I think I need to take this back to some of our policy folks, our medical director, to make sure. I've been taking notes and got the information that you all have asked, and I want to go back and just clarify. Are we now saying that individuals can have contacts or glasses, and that if that's the case, then we need to clarify that? Or are we saying that no, they can only get contact lenses in the event that it meets medical necessity criteria, and here is the criteria. So I
And
think,
Commissioner Lee, this is Nicole with
Darren,
Avisis.
Mhm.
just want
Sorry.
to say that the way that we currently interpret it in our regulation, at least in the last one that was filed and the current regulation that was filed, that it would have to meet medical necessity. We've said that in each regulation, in both places, we've said that specifically that it had to meet medical necessity. And medical necessity would be if the clinician decided that it was medically necessary for that individual to have contacts. It doesn't have to specifically be a medical issue. It could be that maybe a child has some form of autism where they won't keep the glasses on their face, and they decide that contacts are a better solution. There are a multitude of different areas and reasons why clinician may choose to describe or prescribe medical contacts over glasses. However, it has to be a medical necessity and medically necessary for them to be able to do that. And I think we state that in the regulation and in the previous regulation as well.
Thanks, Justin. I still think there's some confusion based on the conversation that we're having. There still seems to be, and I think Nicole from Avisis, what were you going to say something?
Hi, Commissioner Lee. Thank you. Just wanted to confirm that for Humana, for Aetna, and also for WellCare, based upon the 412 CAR revisions, we reinstituted the medically necessary criteria. So for the adults and for children, contact lenses are not in lieu of eyeglasses. They are covered under medical necessity. We are in the process of updating our plan sheets for the providers. So that will be released very shortly, or very soon, I should say. Thank you.
So, and I think that Dr. Munson, that was what Nicole just said, is your understanding too, that contact lenses are not covered in lieu of, but must meet medical necessity.
Correct. And this is discussions in previous times with the TAC, and if the TAC members would like to chime in, we had actually gone over this in detail in a special called meeting, because initially I don't believe, and the other TAC members can bring their recollection, but I don't believe initially when this was presented that it was just contact lenses. There was no dialogue in there about medical necessity at all. And that was something that we brought, that was a recommendation that we brought to the MAC, that it was medically necessary only. It was already there in statute for children, but when this expanded benefit came out, that it was expanded to adults, but it kind of became a free-for-all. And I feel like that's also what some of the MCOs on the call are talking about, is it has been kind of a moving target, because that medical necessity wasn't hammered out and wasn't written out for people to understand. And in addition, Justin's scenario, and I understand that you are not a doctor, but I almost cannot imagine getting a contact lens in an autistic child's eye that will not wear glasses. I can't imagine them letting us come and do that. But when we talk about medical necessity, that is already defined in statute. I've been in practice 22 years. It has been in Medicaid to tell us when that is allowed and when it is not allowed. So it's not like I can say, oh, my -4 plays football and he could potentially get hurt by having his glasses on under his helmet, so I'm going to deem that medically necessary. I, as a practitioner, don't have that leeway. The Department of Medicaid has told us what parameters is medically necessary and what is not. And so that is not something we need to reinvent the wheel. The department's already done that. We just need to make sure that it is referenced across the board. And we as practitioners need to know, so we know which direction we're going. And also the recipients need to understand what benefits they do or don't have. So I think Dr. Upchurch has had several instances of this. So I'm going to let him kind of give his background on it.
Well, our understanding, and this has been horrible. I've talked with all the MCOs. They're in a bad position. I've talked, to providers, multiple providers. We're all in a position where these patients are coming in, and their understanding is that they can choose either contact lenses or they can choose glasses. And, we're put on the front line and it's difficult. So we've got some MCOs and several MCOs that are providing that, several that are not. And at this point, I'm in total agreement with the TAC. We have guidelines, Medicaid does, on what is medically necessary. And I've been going, I've been going against the grain on that because we've been told, or we've been implied that we could, people could get contacts. I'm all for making this plain, that what exactly the stipulations are, and also getting that information to the patients, because it's killing us on the front line. And to put contact lenses on children, especially when you're saying you're providing a year supply, but you're providing 1 unit per eye, which is only 1 box, which is 6 lenses per eye. That's only 6 months supply at maximum. Then we're looking at potential major problems down the road as those people overwear those type of lenses. I hope that helps. I hope that's what you're after, Carolyn. I don't know.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Upchurch.
That helps
don't
me
know if-
tremendously too. And I think that there is a bigger conversation that needs to be had. I definitely appreciate this conversation. I understand the confusion. I understand what action we need to take and to get some clarity. So I will take this back to my medical team, to my policy. I have a discussion, and what I'm hearing from this from the TAC is that we already have the medical necessity criteria. If the intent is the department to only apply medical necessity criteria to contact lenses, we already have that in place. If the intent is to allow contacts in lieu of, we need to do some communication and some outreach to our provider community and our members and our managed care organizations.
Agreed.
Okay.
All right. Thank you all so much. This has been a great conversation, and glad that I could join today, and hope to be able to join as many of these as I can in the future of the TAC meetings, because always good information and good conversation.
Great.
So in the
Now, do any-
meantime, sorry,
Yes,
in the meantime, are we sticking to the medically necessary?
Well, and it sounds like to me that there's
Aye.
providers that are sticking to the medical necessity criteria and providers that are not. So I think in the meantime, it's I would stick to the medical, because everything in Medicaid has to be medically necessary. So I would recommend sticking to the medical necessity criteria that's outlined in the regulation.
Okay, thank you.
And Commissioner Lee, this is Greg from UHC. The only add that I'll give, and I can only speak for our organization, I think the regulations are pretty clear that contact lenses must be medically necessary. The regs specifically say in 631, it says that these are not covered unless they meet the 632 guidelines, which require the medical necessity. So I'm not sure how all the MCOs are handling this, but we are handling it in alignment with the current regs. So if that question were posed to us as an MCO, the answer is yes, we have to have medical necessity. It is not an in lieu of benefit.
Thank you, Greg.
Do any of the other members of the TAC committee have any other comments on the contact lens issue?
Other than just, we're here to help. So just, please run it by us, and we'll maybe save everybody a lot of heartache.
Okay. So next question was the discussion on balance billing with the anything that people get, and this is both children and adults. Is that something that is going to be allowed? I mean, I've had this question even this week. And so that would be something that if we could get some clarity on whether or not that would be allowed, that would be great.
Federal rules do not allow balance billing of Medicaid members. So this is kind of where this is hard for us to thread the needle. So previously, some of the MCOs have been generous enough to offer a value-added benefit of glasses. And in that value-added benefit, if the patient chose to get something different, they were allowed to have an upgrade.
And so if this benefit now flips to a benefit for all that is coming from DMS, they will not be allowed to do any of that balance billing from this point further.
That is correct, because it was not a covered benefit before. Patients would have had, and in the event that the Medicaid MCOs did not offer that benefit, the patients would have had to pay for that service themselves. Now that it is a covered service in the Medicaid program, it has to be, we have to have the rules have to apply equally to everyone, and there would be no balance billing in the program.
Okay. And then the last question refers to the contact lens fitting fee, which is code 92310. In our last meeting, DMS said that there would not be a limit on the use of that code. So some of the MCOs are not covering the contact lens fitting, and others have confirmed that they'll only pay for one fitting during the year. So if DMS does not put a limit on the vision Medicaid fee schedule, can the MCOs set their own limits and not follow the fee schedule limits?
If the Medicaid fee schedule does have a limit, the MCOs have to adhere to that limit. They can exceed that limit, but they could not reduce that limit.
So if it does not have a limit on it, they cannot reduce that. Is that what you're saying?
If it does not have a limit, if we have no limits in place, then there's no limit. And I would look to see, is this something that, how many contact lens fittings a year would be appropriate? Is it something that the department should consider a limit on, is what I would ask the TAC.
So that really depends on what you're fitting. I mean, and I'll let Dr. Upchurch speak to it too, because specialty fittings are a different animal altogether.
Well, in my office, basic contact lens fitting, I cover it with just one visit. That would not be a problem, but that's at a minimal charge. Then when you go up to lenses such as toric lenses, astigmatism lenses, you go up to gas permeable lenses, you go up to bifocal contact lenses. Typically, those are going to require several visits, and our charge goes up to the private pay patient accordingly. And so one charge of 92310 per year would not even come close on a gas permeable bitoric contact lens or a gas perm bifocal lens. We would essentially lose our shirts on that.
And so I think that there was a conversation prior to this that talked about the type of lenses that Medicaid would cover, and there was some concern about the gas permeable. For example, there was some talk of concerns about the different types of lenses, and a recommendation was made that we only I think that the regulation right now, the regulation says that we cover daily lenses rather than the gas permeable and the different types, the hard lenses.
Well,
so if you don't mind, Dr. Upchurch, I'm going to jump in here real quick. So Commissioner Lee, this is really, you're really hitting the nail on the head. And I think it may be a good idea to review the December meeting, that the emergency meeting that the TAC called, because you will hear a lot of this conversation and understand where some of the miscommunication or just misunderstandings are coming from. So when you go back to talking about a medically necessary contact lens, and I'll use keratoconus for an example, it's the probably the number one reason we would use a gas permeable lens. That is not something that can be corrected. It's a disease of the front part of the eye. You cannot correct it very well with glasses. You can only get the best visual acuity with a gas permeable contact lens. That is a medically necessary specific reason that DMS would cover contact lenses. When we were told initially, when this was brought to us, it was contacts for everybody, kids, adults, everybody. There was medically necessary. It was not in the discussion at all. And that was where our frustration came in, because it was approved for one unit. When we initially had our discussion, one unit meant one soft contact lens per eye per year. Again, I've been in practice 22 years. I have not dealt with these lenses since I was a minor working in my doctor's office in high school. That is how antiquated that technology is. So we tried to bring this to DMS, and that was something that we tried to to have that conversation that those lenses are not standard of care. Those lenses are going to end up in worse health for the front part of the eyes for the patients, and honestly, ultimately, more cost to DMS for visits to our office. So that discussion is all on, as Dr. Compton refers to them, luxury lenses. The I want contact lenses, not I need contact lenses. So the materials that we're using when we talk about an I need contact lenses are completely different. They're much more complex. They require a lot more chair time, a lot more visits. And that's where the multiple use of that fitting fee code that Dr. Upchurch was explaining comes into play. And so that there may be a daily lens that is necessary for someone in some respects, but more than likely there are very specialty lenses that we're talking about for someone that actually has a disease of the eye, somebody who's just incredibly nearsighted that literally can't see past 2 inches in front of their eyes, and they have contact lenses. Then yes, daily lenses would be appropriate for them to maintain the health of their eyes. So this is a very nuanced conversation, and this is just pointing to the reason why we as an optometric TAC, since we are the doctors, this is our wheelhouse, we could provide all these answers, where folks at DMS, it's just, that's not their thing. They didn't go to school for it. So it's very hard to work through these nuances if it's not something that you're incredibly familiar with. So I didn't mean to jump right in there on you, Dr. Upchurch, but I feel like this really points to why this has been such a conundrum for all of us.
No, you're good.
And I appreciate
So-
Dr. Munson. I appreciate that. I will go back and review those December emergency meeting minutes. And again, I think we've got, the regulations were refiled on April the 12th. They will be up for review at reg review on May the 9th. That's next Tuesday at 1 o'clock. So we will be talking about the regulations with reg review. And I think, again, this is some good conversation. I think our intent, of course, we do want to focus on services that are going to help our Medicaid members improve their vision, improve their sight. I think this is a first step. I think we have some more conversations to go and some more tweaks to make before we get it just right. But I do think it's vitally important for our Medicaid members, for our adults, to receive glasses or contact lenses in order to correct their vision so that they can, number one, be able to function in society, but, help get them back into the workforce so that they can see as they go forward. I think that we have, from some of the stats that I've been looking at, maybe, preliminary, maybe over 50,000 individuals who have received glasses, not the contact lenses, glasses. I've seen very few contact lenses, but I think that's a large number. And I think that helping these individuals be able to see and regain some freedom in their life is very important, and so appreciate this TAC. And I do look forward to conversations on how we can clear up some of this confusion and do what's right by our Medicaid members and our providers. So I think, Dr. Munson, your conversation that you just had is very on spot, and appreciate your candor. You are correct that in some of the individuals here at Medicaid, we don't have the expertise that you have, and we will be looking to you, to this TAC, to help us as we move forward.
So we have 50,000 covered lives that received glasses since January with this expanded benefit.
For adults, if the information that I'm looking at, if I'm interpreting it correctly, that's about 57. I can give you the specific code. Let's see, the code that I'm looking at for it's V2100 to V2399. There's, and if those are glasses, that's 58,000 individuals.
And that's just in the adult component
Just in
of
the
it.
adult, and since January.
And that includes all the codes within that, or that's individual lives?
That's 58 individual lives, 62,173 services delivered to those 58,000. And a little over $1.5 million.
Wow.
So, we do know
Wow.
that there was a pent-up demand. We know And one of the things that I talk about when I talk about our Medicaid members, I talk about, the federal poverty level. We always throw out that federal poverty level number and, it's at 138% of the federal poverty level and below. And what does that really mean? And, for a family of four, some of the information that I've looked at, if you look at that 138, it's right around $40,000 a year. And the average cost to live in Kentucky is over $42,000. So individuals, the bulk of these individuals that we're serving, the Medicaid members, they're working to put food on the table. And that 42,000 that I talked about, 40,000 is pre-tax. That's before taxes are even taken out of their income. So having glasses is a luxury for some of them, and it shouldn't be a luxury. It should be a benefit. They should be able to be able to see and to read and to drive. So I think that 58,000 number is very telling about the pent-up demand that was out there, the individuals that did not have corrective glasses or that needed them. So again, I think that it's something that's totally different. We haven't covered glasses before, but I think it's something that is so necessary.
Commissioners, Dr. Compton, on those, that 58,000 or whatever number you just quoted, you said that's V2100 through V23.
23.99. It says lenses is what I've got the description
Will
of.
there be, most of the times there's 2 V codes filed per pair of glasses.
So even if you have to, if it's,
Yeah.
it'd still be about 30,000 individuals. Now there's another V2020.
That's
So
frames.
that's 57,495 people.
Then that would be accurate because that's only billed once. So
Mhm.
I just didn't want the wrong number getting out there.
Yeah, it's 57, V2020 is 57,495. So, and I think that that's very telling on the, the pent-up demand that was out there for individuals who needed to be able to see.
There is, it's a great benefit. We just need to get us all on the same page.
And I think we're getting there.
I think today's made a lot of headway.
Yeah, I think we're getting there. I think that, it's really important. And I always say that the Medicaid program was created for the member, but we can't take care of our members if we don't take care of our providers, because you are the ones seeing these individuals, so very vital to getting them the services they need. But I was a big wow when I saw that number of glasses of 57 just since January. So.
Absolutely. And that is, I will say for the MCOs that did cover that as a value added benefit, it is, it at that point was wonderful, because for several years as a practitioner, I just had to say, oh, you turned 21, sorry, you don't get anything anymore. Or have the conversation with the 20-year-old to be like, we got to get this done before you turn 21. So the MCOs that offered that as a value added benefit kind of cracked things open, but this benefit is fantastic. It is definitely something that I think can change the lives of the people in the Commonwealth. Now, I did get one question for you in the chat, and I'm just going to read it from here. It's Leanne Ellis with March Vision, and it's question for DMS to take back, please. If there is no elective contact lens benefit, then why does the current revised 4/12/23 Kentucky Medicaid fee schedule indicate that codes V2500, etc., show as available with 8 units? It specifically states adults and children may select eyeglasses or contact lenses per year, but not both.
And I think this goes back to the conversation we had about the medical necessity that's in the regulation that's not on the fee schedule to cross-reference. So that's a very good question and something that we're going to take back and discuss.
Okay. Excellent. Now, does anyone on the TAC have any other questions about the 2023 new Medicaid vision material benefits?
I just have a comment, Carolyn. Just want to say to Director Lee how much I appreciate you, and you probably don't remember me, but we worked together so many years ago that you probably don't even want me to mention it. But I appreciate you and your team and you listening to us and hearing us out on this, because we on the front line and the MCOs right behind us have sort of been in a real predicament since this all came along. So I just want you to know we're not trying to cause you all any problems, but we really appreciate what we're trying to do for the people of Kentucky, and I think we're on the right track here.
I appreciate that, Dr. Upchurch, and I do remember you, and I think I can't even remember how long ago it was.
You don't want me to say.
It was a while, but
Yeah.
I have over 20 years of experience in the Medicaid program, and Medicaid is a huge program. And our resources are, just like many of you, our resources are stretched to the limit. And sometimes when we go down these paths of making changes to the program, it's very difficult because it's not just the department, the TAC, it's CMS has to be involved, it's just, our system changes, different things. And we do agree with you, Dr. Upchurch, that we are going down the right path. We've got a few bumps in the road, but I think that we're going to get those straightened out and do what's best for our members and our providers as far as the vision services goes. And this has been a really good conversation today, I believe.
Thank you. That's all I wanted to say, Carolyn.
Okay, thanks, Dr. Upchurch. Okay, well, if we don't have any other questions on that part, then we'll go ahead and move on. I believe Ms. Dudinsky already answered our question under new business about our optometrists without updating their license. And then the other general discussion, a couple things I know that Avisa's had some questions. Again, getting told to lead a meeting 2 hours before it starts. I don't have those, but I do have one to lead up to that kind of does tie in, Commissioner Lee, with what you've said about the contact lens fee, the 92310, not if there's no limit on the fee schedule, then there's no limit of those codes. Our regular just 99 codes, so 99211, 99212, 99213, those do not have limits on the fee schedule. So are those also something that would not be limited from the coverage from the MCO perspective?
Could you say those codes again, please? I'm sorry.
They do have limits of 2, which is 99211, 99212, and 99213. And so they have a limit of 2, excuse me, I'm saying this backwards. So what we are asking, and I don't know the correct direction for this to go or how for this request to come through, but that's something like I have a guy that comes in and gets a foreign body in his eye. A 99213 would be very, very correct to use for follow-ups. Well, if they don't follow my directions, they don't get their eye drops, and I have to see them 2 or 3 times. I actually can only see them twice under that code. And that's, you can ask the other doctors on this panel, that's an incredibly commonly used code. It is not a long amount of time. It's not a terribly high reimbursement. And so that is something that if we could talk about that limitation being lifted, because to be honest, 99211 isn't, or 212 aren't even codes that would be billed. I mean, they don't, 99211 doesn't even require a doctor's presence, I don't think. And so that is something that from a care perspective does kind of bind us to be able to take care of patients appropriately with longer term issues.
And I would think that sounds like a great recommendation to look at lifting those codes. And if you made that recommendation, maybe inserting what you think may be appropriate. But I think that is a good that would be a good recommendation for the TAC to make, is for us to talk about that limitation being lifted.
And that code does not affect just us. That's a provider-wide code. So it's not optometry specific. So I'm actually kind of surprised that we would be the first ones recommending that to the MAC, but I feel that there would be providers across the board that would definitely be supportive of that change.
And that would be one where we would have to go back and we could look at how many times that code has been billed, and more than once. I'm not sure. The only thing that we would have to go by would be under the EPSDT if it was ever medically necessary, if it was ever under the EPSDT benefit, if it was lifted. But if you made that recommendation, I would suggest you also include maybe some sort of a recommended limit that you think would be reasonable. That would help.
Okay.
That would help us determine determine the cost of making that change.
Okay.
Commissioner Lee, this is Dinah Bevington. After we had the special meeting in December, we were asked to submit our recommendations to the department, which we did December 29th, 2022. And I'll send you a copy of this correspondence, but we specifically requested that the limitations be removed on those codes at
Okay.
that time. So I will send that to you, so you've got a copy of that as well.
Okay. And did that go to the MAC too? That went to the MAC and then the
Yes,
I'm sorry.
that also went to the MAC as well.
Okay. Okay. So we have, I can look it up, Donna. There's no sense in sending it to me. I can get it. And I'm assuming that we responded to that, or.
No, there was no response to that specific, to that recommendation and request.
Okay, I'll go back and take that. But if you've made that recommendation, then I'll go back and look at that and we'll take that into consideration. Sorry for that oversight.
That's all right. Thank you very much.
Most of your MCOs are paying that code more than once because they realize, I've got one lady that has recurrent iritis and I may see her 10 or 12 times in a year. So most of the MCOs are paying it more than once, but it's sort of got their hands tied too.
Mm-hmm. And that is the good thing about the MCOs, they do have more flexibility to provide some of those services and exceed some of those limitations. But that's good to know too, Dr. Upchurch. That gives us a little bit more information that we can look in the system about how many times that code has been billed and paid with those limitations lifted.
Okay, thank you for that. And I apologize for presenting that kind of backwards, but I appreciate you looking into that for us. And then I'm going to let Nicole from Avisis, I'm going to put you on the hot seat. Avisis had some questions as well.
Hello, Dr. Munson. Actually, you did discuss the main one that we had questions with. So thank you so much. We do appreciate you bringing that forward.
Oh, you're so welcome. Well, excellent. That is fantastic. Okay. So is there any other general discussion from any members of the TAC committee today?
This part of new business, may I chime in?
Yep, we're ready for new business.
Okay, earlier this week or late last week, I don't know, a colleague of mine called my billing and coding employee to let us know that I can't think of the code right now off the top of my head.
66030.
Yes. And Commissioner Lee, I'll thank you ahead of time for helping us. That had been termed, I guess, is a word from, I don't know if it's Medicaid didn't pay anybody that or just termed for ODs. That's fixed, but my bigger question is how does DMS decide what codes they'll pay, what codes they'll stop paying? Is there a process? Is it just to kind of avoid this issue again, or at least have a heads up?
Yeah, we do have a process for the bulk of our procedure codes. It's typically based on Medicare. There are some things that Medicare does not cover, but typically our codes we base our fee schedules on Medicare, and our rates are developed on a Kentucky specific Medicare fee schedule. With this particular code, Dr. Compton, what happened is the department received some communication from an association, and this is not uncommon. We receive these sorts of communications all the time, and we received a communication that said that this code that we could be operating outside of or be in violation of KRS 320.210, specifically section 2B3, which relates to procedures that were excluded from the scope of practice of optometry. And the third one is a non-laser surgery, and it goes on it says requiring full thickness incision or excision. So we interpreted that. What we did is when we received that communication, we went to the KRS and our interpretation was, well, this code was not allowable. But we have since had some communications, and specifically we had some conversations with Dinah, and she had pointed out that was not a correct interpretation, that the Board of Optometric Associations actually in 2020, the Board of Examiners included that code in the list of services. So we have since reversed that code. We have put it back on the fee schedule. We will be reprocessing any claims that have come in. So typically, if it is, if it's a change in scope or something like that, we would definitely, want to reach out before we made a change. But this actually, our interpretation led us to believe that we were in violation of a KRS, which was something that we would want to change, a lot sooner. And we did do some research before we discontinued this code on the fee schedule. We did do some research, and it showed that in the last 2 years, there were less than $400 in claims that were paid for that code. So that again led to our interpretation as this may not be, a valid code for the optometric fee schedule.
Thank you for that explanation. You've been a big help. Probably the lower utilization is, we're doing them in our office. Most of them are Medicare or have commercial insurance, or very few Medicaids. It's generally an older population that needs these injections. So that may explain part of the utilization. But you have been a huge help on this entire meeting today, and I really appreciate it. So thank you.
I definitely second that, Dr. Compton. So does anybody else have any general discussion for today on the TAC committee? Okay, so seeing none, Dr. Compton is our MAC meeting representative. And so the next MAC meeting is on May 25th, and he will be in attendance for that. I don't believe today that we have any recommendations for him to take to that. If anyone does, speak now or forever hold your peace. And if not, we will be having our next meeting on August 3rd at 1 p.m. I'm not sure if that will be Zoom or in person. That is above my pay grade. But that is something that we will discuss coming closer to that. And so if there is no other discussion, then I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second. I'm good at that today.
All right. All right. Thank you all so much for being here. And Commissioner Lee, I really appreciate you being on the call with us today. You have been incredibly helpful, and we appreciate your support of all the patients that are covered by Medicaid in the Commonwealth of Kentucky.
Thank you. And I appreciate everything you all are doing for the Medicaid population.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Everybody have a great day.
Everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye now.